does someone who grew up in a home where it seemed impossible to earn more than $30,000 a year now manage to earn twice that every month? If you're watching this, you probably already know the answer. Anything is possible with God, but here's the truth. This isn't just an overcoming story. What I'm going to share with you today are 5 powerful verses from the Bible that helped me move from a struggle for survival to a life of success. I believe that these same messages can bring big changes to your life if you pay attention to the end. These verses are not only spiritual teachings, they also bring lessons that can open doors to great financial transformation. Let's get straight to the point. 1. Proverbs 13:12. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life. This verse echoes a profound truth that many of us have experienced in our lives. I'll start with it because I know firsthand the weight of hope deferred. I remember one particular day when I was sitting in my car before going into work, my hands firmly gripping the steering wheel and my eyes filled with tears. I was exhausted, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. I felt like I was building someone else's dreams, putting hours and hours into a job that drained me, while my own dreams seemed further and further away, more impossible. Have you ever been there? Feeling like you're wearing yourself out at work, only to come home and realize that, despite all the effort, you have nothing left to offer. No energy left for your family, for yourself, for your own dreams. That feeling that you're losing yourself, that your deepest desires are being buried, while you live only for the demands of everyday life. I know what it's like. That morning, sitting in the car, something inside me broke. I could no longer ignore the pain, the frustration, and the lack of purpose. But at that moment, I also felt that something was about to change. I took out my cell phone, opened the Bible app, and without meaning to, the verse appeared on the screen. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life. In that instant, it was as if God was speaking directly to my heart. The pain I was feeling was not a sign of defeat, but a sign that He had more for me. He reminded me that the dreams He places in our hearts are not to torture us, but to guide us. Those desires, those longings that sometimes seem so far away, are actually clues to the plan that God has for our lives. They are not a curse, but a blessing, a promise of a full life. This verse gave me a new perspective on my hopes and what I was experiencing. I realized that many times the pain we feel when our dreams seem postponed or impossible is actually an invitation to take a closer look at what God has in store for us. He hasn't forgotten us. He's preparing us for something greater. Now, I invite you to reflect on your own life. Where do you feel this sickness in your heart? It could be a job that you feel is going nowhere, or perhaps a dream that you abandoned because you thought it was no longer possible. It could be a calling, a purpose that you haven't yet followed. I challenge you to take these hopes to God. Ask Him, Lord, is this desire something you have put in my heart? Is this the plan you have for me? And if the answer is yes, trust that He has a way to fulfill it. Even when it seems that hope is deferred, remember, God is working behind the scenes, and He has a perfect plan for your life, waiting for the right moment to bring it to fruition. 2. Proverbs 6:10-11 and Proverbs 20:33 for laziness and preparation. These verses from Proverbs appear twice in the Bible, which gives us a clue to their importance. When something is repeated, it is a clear message that we need to pay attention. They are like a warning that resonates in our hearts and minds, inviting us to reflect on our attitudes and choices. In Proverbs 6:10-11, we read, "A little sleep, a little nap, a little folding of the arms to rest, and poverty will overtake you like a thief, and your need like an armed man." This verse describes very clearly the consequences of laziness and negligence. It warns us that if we wait for the perfect moment to act, or if we put off doing what needs to be done, we will end up being taken by surprise, just like someone who doesn't prepare for the future and is surprised by poverty and scarcity. In Proverbs 20:33-34, this message is repeated, but with an even more vivid image. He compares negligence to the sight of a field covered in thorns with a destroyed fence. indicating that carelessness and lack of preparation can lead to even greater damage. Imagine a well-kept field full of potential, but which, for lack of attention, ends up becoming useless and unfit for harvest. This verse impacted me deeply during a time when I was struggling financially. Something unexpected happened. My car broke down and the repair would cost $900. But I didn't have enough money in my savings account to cover it. I was desperate, looking for solutions, feeling the weight of stress and pressure. That situation was a real wake-up call for me. It was at that moment that I realized how much I was living from paycheck to paycheck without making provisions for the hard times. It wasn't just about the car, but about the reality that I wasn't prepared for life's winters. Those unexpected crises like job loss, health problems, or other emergencies that take us by surprise. That's when I began to see Proverbs 6:10-11 in a new way. I thought of the ant, which works diligently during the warm season to store food and prepare for winter. God's wisdom was calling me to act in the same way, to be proactive and prepare for difficult times before they come. I realized that laziness is not only doing nothing, but also neglecting to plan and prepare for what lies ahead. With this, I understood that the key is not just to avoid laziness in the traditional sense, but to take responsibility for my financial life and other important areas. True wisdom lies in anticipating what might happen and taking practical action to ensure that we are ready regardless of the difficulties that may arise. Now, I want to invite you to reflect on your own life. Are there areas that you have been neglecting? It could be your finances, your spiritual growth, your health, or even your relationships with your family. Sometimes it seems that things can wait, but as we've seen, procrastination can catch us by surprise when we least expect it. Start small. If you don't already have an emergency fund, start by putting in a small amount every month. If you feel you need to grow in your faith or skills, dedicate a little time every day to this. Don't wait for the crisis to hit before you take action. Don't let negligence rob you of the blessings God has for you. Preparation is what strengthens us for difficult times, and it is a way of honoring what God has entrusted to us. 3. Proverbs 13:22 and 1 Timothy 5:8, leaving a legacy. Next few verses you find in the Bible talk about the importance of leaving an inheritance and providing for our family. And this is a profound message full of wisdom. The idea of inheritance goes beyond material goods. It extends to the care, love, and legacy we leave for those who come after us. And this vision is clearly presented to us in Proverbs 13:22, which says, "A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner stored up for the righteous." This verse reminds us that, as we build our lives and our possessions, we must think about the future, about the generations that will come after us. A good man doesn't think only of his own satisfaction or immediate comfort, but of the well-being of future generations. He builds and leaves something that can be a foundation for his children and even grandchildren. On the other hand, the sinner's wealth, which is accumulated selfishly or wrongly, will end up in the hands of those who do things justly and honestly. And in 1 Timothy 5:8, the Bible exhorts us with an even more direct and serious statement. If anyone does not take care of his own, especially those of his own household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. These words may sound harsh, but they are a reminder of the responsibility we have towards our family. Taking care of those we love is not just a moral obligation, it is also a demonstration of our faith and commitment to God's principles. Providing for our own is not just an act of generosity, but of integrity, and the Bible makes it clear that anyone who neglects to do so is failing in a fundamental aspect of the Christian life. One of the most precious memories I have was a conversation with my grandfather shortly before he passed away. He had worked all his life in difficult conditions with sacrifices to ensure that our family was well off. I remember when he showed me a simple notebook where he had saved small amounts of money every month. With a smile and a sincere look, he said, "I may not be rich, but I want to leave something to you and your children. That little notebook wasn't just about his savings. It was a symbol of his vision, his loyalty, and his care for our family. He taught me that the true value of a legacy is not in the amount of money he can leave, but in the way we sacrifice and strive to provide for future generations. What my grandfather left me was not just money, but a lesson in how to live purposefully, diligently, and with an eye to the future. At that moment, I realized that I wanted to follow the same path. I didn't just want to live for myself, for my own needs and desires. I wanted to build something lasting, something that would benefit my family, my community, and, in a way, future generations. This verse challenges us to think generationally, to plant seeds that, over time, will grow and bear fruit for our children, grandchildren, and beyond. Now, I want to invite you to reflect on your own life. Are you living with a legacy mentality? Are you planting seeds today that will grow and benefit those who come after you? Sometimes legacy isn't something grand or immediate, that it's the small daily gestures that, over time, become a solid foundation for the future. This could mean starting a savings account, investing in skills that will benefit your family, or simply living in a way that inspires others to follow a good path. Start today with small steps and think about how you can be a blessing to the next generation. After all, true wealth is not only in what we can accumulate, but in what we can share and leave for others. 4. Romans 12:2. Transformation of the mind. Romans 12:2 tells us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." This verse, taken from Romans 12:2, has been a compass for my life, especially when it comes to how I approach success and money. For a long time, I believed that achieving financial prosperity was just a matter of effort, constant running around and trying to earn as much as possible. I thought I had to do everything to be successful, and that often meant being competitive and even cutting corners along the way. However, God used a specific moment in my life to show me that this thinking was wrong. I remember when I was tempted to take a shortcut to look for a quick profit, something that seemed simple and easy to achieve. The opportunity was right there in front of me, and the people around me, the ones who seemed to be doing well, told me, "It's no big deal. Everyone does it, just go for it." But at that moment, a verse came to my mind with a force that I couldn't ignore. The message that I couldn't act like the world did if I wanted to honor God was clear. I knew that this quick and easy path was not what God had for me. I needed to renew my mind, change the way I thought about success, and trust that God's way, even if it seemed longer and full of sacrifices, was the best for my life. It was then that I decided to build my business differently. Instead of focusing only on immediate profit, I started focusing on creating something that reflected God's values, something that was fair, honest, and that really benefited the people around me. Of course, this wasn't easy and was often more challenging, but the impact was transformative. I realized that by transforming my mind and aligning my thoughts with God's will, I was planting the seeds for much more lasting and meaningful success. This decision changed the way I saw my life and my career. I realized that true success lies not only in achieving financial goals, but in doing so in a way that honors God and brings peace to my heart. It's not about chasing money or status, but about living in such a way that our work and choices reflect the principles of the kingdom of God. Now, the question I want to leave you with is, what mindsets or beliefs might be holding you back? Perhaps you are letting the world dictate how you should live, work, or build your future. Ask yourself if you are making decisions based on God's promises, or if you are simply following the pressure of what others say is important. Take time to reflect and renew your mind with the truths God has for you. He wants you to prosper, but in a way that honors Him and brings true peace to your heart. May God's truth be your basis, your foundation, and may it guide you to a path of genuine and lasting success. 5. Romans 8:28. Trusting in God's sovereignty. Romans 8:28 reminds us, We know that God works in all things for the good of those who love Him, for those who have been called according to His purpose. This verse from Romans 8:28 has always had a great impact on my life, especially in times of difficulty. There was a time when everything seemed to be falling apart around me. I was building my business with a lot of effort, but suddenly I lost an important client. This client represented a significant part of my income, and that loss left me with a feeling of despair. I remember sitting at my desk, looking at my bank account balance, which seemed to be disappearing before my eyes. Fear gripped me. I wondered how I would manage to pay the bills for the month, how I would survive yet another financial crisis. It was a moment of great insecurity, where doubts and panic seemed to suffocate me. But in the midst of that chaos, a truth began to emerge in my mind. Romans 8:28 kept echoing inside me. God works in all things for the good of those who love Him. The promise that God was working in my life, even in those difficult circumstances, gave me a strength I didn't know I had. I clung to that promise and decided to trust that He was in control of everything, even when everything seemed out of control. Today, looking back, I realized that the loss of that client was actually a turning point in my life. What initially seemed like a failure was actually the push I needed to diversify my sources of income and build something more solid and sustainable. I forced myself out of my comfort zone to explore new opportunities and finally to build a stronger and more diversified financial base. That setback prepared me for something much bigger than I could have imagined at the time. I want to share some encouragement with you if you're facing a difficult situation or it feels like everything is falling apart. Remember that even in the most challenging situations, God sees the bigger picture. He is working for your good, even when you can't see the immediate result. What may seem like a failure or loss now could actually be the start of something much better. Trust that He is in control, even when things seem messy or out of place. God is preparing the way for you, and by trusting Him, you will see how He turns challenges into opportunities for growth and prosperity. These 5 verses have changed my life and my financial situation in ways I never imagined. They taught me to have hope, work hard, think about the future, not just the present, change the way I see things. Trust in God's plan for me. If you found this content inspiring, please leave a like, subscribe, and be part of our community as we grow together in faith, money, and purpose. Remember, God's blessings are not just for you, but also for everyone you help along the way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.